It's all quiet in the underground bunker. Doors closed, locks bolted. But the Great One isn't just resting on his laurels. He's making sure your weekend is even better by giving you his best. This is the best of Mark Levin.
You know, to the handful of affiliates, to some folks in the audience, minority of course, people online, who ask me, why do I keep talking about these issues of Marxism, Islamism, anti-Semitism, anti-Americanism, anti-Israel? Why do I keep talking about this? You know, it's an amazing thing. People think this is parochial. That because I'm Jewish, I always talk about Israel and the Islamists. It's really quite shocking to me. Who's committing most of the terrorism around the world? Who? Who's massacring Jews? Who's massacring Christians? Who's massacring Americans? It's just incredible to me. We're not talking about this enough. And who's been pointing out the people who are responsible for this vile poison, the spread, the metastasization of this cancer? I have. Why? Because it'll destroy the West, it'll destroy the United States, it will destroy us, Mr. and Mrs. America. That's why. History proves it. And it's not a joke. And when the history books are written, it'll be you in this audience. It'll be this show that would not be silenced, would not be intimidated, would not be threatened. I don't do things for ratings. We get great ratings, but I don't do them for ratings. I do them because I'm on a mission. Because they're right. Back in May, I did a program on Fox, highly critical of Iran. I felt the time had come for our country to stop preventing Israel, or put it differently, to give the green light to Israel that wanted to take on Iran and take out those missiles. I was asked, I was invited by the president to speak with him. And I'm not going to get into the details, and I never have. But that apparently triggered Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the rest of the reprobates to unleash. It was always under their skin. It was always in their brain. It was always in their soulless soul. To attack me with lines like neocon or Tel Aviv Mark or there's the Jew. Folks, I've been warning for a long time now, a long time, about this cancer, this Islamist cancer. And it turns out, of course, that the leader of the pack, Carlson, is trashing our country, trashing Christianity, trashing Judaism, trashing the West, the greatest generation that defeated Hitler, all in service to Qatar. You see, the way I see it, America, it's not the Reagan supporters, the Tea Party activists, the Convention of State supporters, the Trump supporters. We're all the same people. Those are our values. Those are our principles. We have to defend our civilization. There is a barbarian movement, a primitive movement of 7th century Islamists that are based in, among other places, but particularized in the Middle East. Not Indonesia, not Singapore, where there are hundreds of millions of Muslims, but in places like Qatar. And they're serious about what they're doing. They attack the Judeo-Christian belief system. Our nation is founded on the Judeo-Christian belief system and the Enlightenment. Islamism wants to destroy the Judeo part, the Christian part, and has never gone through the Enlightenment. Their scholars, so-called, many of their imams have talked about, as I've told you, revolution through immigration. It's happening. In fact, it's happened. Ask the people in Britain. Ask the people in France. Ask the people in Sweden. Ask the people in Belgium. Start asking the people in New York, and New Jersey, and Michigan. Ask the people in Texas, in Northern Virginia. We're not talking about Indonesians and Singaporeans. We're talking about Islamists who kill Muslims. The most radical element pouring into our country, pouring into the West. And you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to see it and hear it. I've taken more crap for being the point of the spear than you can possibly imagine. The pressures that I come under, and I reject them. Because I'm right. I'm not right because I'm Nostradamus. I'm not right because I'm Aristotle and Einstein. I'm right because I see it. The lies that are being told about our country, our history, our great heroes, our founders, it's all intentional. The lies that are being told about the Israelis as they fight for their survival, surrounded by enemies. Hamas. And the Hamas data being used by the Western media to destroy Israel, to spread anti-Semitism, to spread Islamism, and to destroy our country in the West. Now, why would that be, you ask? And I've explained it. It's the Marxist-Islamist fusion. The Marxist, the radical left agenda in our culture, fused with the incoming Islamist culture, all reject our founding. The American experiment. Our tolerance, our free speech, our freedom of association. You see, we should all be the Christians, the black Christians in Africa. We should all be the Jews in Israel and Australia. We should all be the Hindus, who are also under attack by the Islamists, or the atheists. We should all understand what we're facing, and we should unite to fight it. When you have individuals in our country who are preaching on behalf of this enemy, it is diabolical. It's evil. It is diabolical and it is evil. The Democrat Party doesn't see things this way. That's why Omar is a Democrat. That's why Tlaib is a Democrat. That's why the Marxist side, Bernie Sanders, is a Democrat. Elizabeth Warren is a Democrat. That's why Mondami ran as a Democrat. The Democrat Party has never embraced this country. That doesn't mean Democrats out there don't embrace the country. Many do. That's not my point. I'm talking about the ideological leadership of the Democrat Party. There's simply no question about it. The borders were wide open. They knew when you have open borders and you're not vetting, you're going to have terrorists in here. They had to know it. They had to know, the Biden regime and the Democrats, and when they were bringing people in here from Afghanistan and not vetting them, that terrorists would secrete themselves in the population, and they have. And even today, they reject the idea of deportation. Don't let them tell you otherwise. They reject deportation. Only deportation can solve what they've done to our country. Only deportation can allow us to remove the cancer of terrorism, would-be terrorists, radical Islamists from this country. There's no other way. And they reject it. They reject it. The media reject it. The West and our country were already inflicted by Marxism. I called it American Marxism. I wrote a whole damn book on it. Many of you read it. Sold almost 1.5 million copies. And then when you interject Islamism, they have the same goal, the same purpose. You hear people talking about it now. Nobody talked about it 6 months ago. Nobody. But me. And I took more crap for this than you can imagine. They call it the green-red combination and so forth. It's Marxist Islamist. That's what it is. And what they have in common is the destruction of the United States of America, the destruction of the state of Israel, the destruction of all Western society. Marx wants it destroyed. The Islamists want it destroyed. They'll figure out what it all looks like when they're done and see who survives among them. But they're not thinking about that right now. And I have said again and again, I have written that Americanism and Marxism are utterly incompatible. That Americanism and Islamism are utterly incompatible. And I find it interesting when we have some of these buffoons with podcasts on the left, or even platforms on cable TV, they call me anti-Muslim. Anti-Muslim? Islamists have slaughtered 600,000 Muslims in Syria, 250,000 Muslims in Yemen, and I'm calling out the people who've killed them. The Islamists.
Mark Levin.
Making your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
But there was a lot of evil over the weekend, wasn't there? And then we read that Robert Reiner and his wife were murdered, and it was a terrible press conference. It was hard to understand anything. And now we know by their son Nick, for God's sakes, stabbed to death. And I looked at a family photo. Nick's a big guy, and he's had drug problems in the past. Just horrible. Excuse me. And, of course, a lot of us remember him from All in the Family and also his directing career, which was actually quite excellent. He was a political leftist, of course. Very left-wing. Democrat, Hollywood, like the rest of them. Not all of them, but most of them. But nobody should have to go that way. Do you ever think about that, Mr. Producer? How you might go, or like stabbing somebody. If you're stabbed to death, that must be damn painful, no? Awful. Just awful. So, may he rest in peace. And then on top of that, this even before that, the Boston murders, the Rhode Island murders at Brown. Young kids, really, taking a test that they've studied for. They want to make something of themselves. And somebody bursts into their classroom, starts executing them, kills 2 of them, wounds 9 of them. The guy's still on the run. He'll get caught. Just a matter of time. He'll be caught. Looks like a big fat slob, if you ask me. Punk. Then, of course, our soldiers and others were murdered by ISIS in Syria. And then the mass murder in Australia, which is just hard to comprehend. It really is. It's and then we see a plot broken up in Southern California that the U.S. attorney there was talking about. Palestinian radicals for New Year's Eve. My wife and I, my mother-in-law and my stepdaughter, excuse me, we went to a Hanukkah first lighting event of the first night of Hanukkah yesterday evening in a public place. Boy, was it cold, by the way. I mean, the wind was blowing. It had to be 5 degrees, something like that. Freezing. And I want to thank law enforcement, Governor Youngkin and his folks. They didn't know I was there. I just showed up. My wife was involved in making sure it was secure. The rabbi, fantastic Chabad rabbi, Chaim Cohen, his family was there. Little ones. A couple hundred people. In the past, there have been 500, 600 people. But it was very cold, and people were worried. They were worried. They were worried. And you can understand why. The president's trying to address this. He wants to deport these people that were brought in here by Democrats and others. That's the truth. And we've got judges that won't allow it. Or make it incredibly difficult. And that's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Because what are we supposed to do about it? When we read about these horrendous events, I mean, look at Australia. Australia is still ruled by a buffoon. They still have open borders. They still have massive gun control. If you're a terrorist, you're going to get a weapon. You're going to get it from the Iranians. You'll get it from money through the Qataris. You'll get a weapon. If you're a regular citizen, where are you supposed to get your weapon from? And why shouldn't you be able to defend yourself? I mean, that's a basic human right, isn't it? That's why the Second Amendment's in there, as a matter of fact. It's just, it was a very, in that respect, it was a very, very depressing weekend, I thought, with all this stuff going on. Everywhere you turned. And just terrible. But the holidays are here. Sorry, I'm sneezing to the truth. So we also have to look at the bright side of things too, right? Hanukkah is a holiday about the Maccabees and their strength. They fought to the last man. Christmas, very, very important holiday. And these are the positive time of our faiths and so forth. And so people seek to disrupt them. But it's always important to have faith. And remember who you are and remember God, and especially at times like this, I think. People question God. If this were going on, why would God permit this? Look, it's crossed my mind more than once, particularly when I look at what just took place in Australia or what took place at Brown or these other things that go on. 9/11, October 7. Why was there a Hitler? Why is there a Stalin? Why are these Islamists essentially free to slaughter people? I mean, it crosses your mind, right? And my take is very simple. I don't know if it's religious or faith-based or not. God tells us what's right and what's wrong. But he also gives us free will. And people use that free will at times to do very evil things, very horrendous and monstrous things. And so you ask, why doesn't God intervene? Well, perhaps he does in cases that we're not even aware of. And I suppose in those cases that he doesn't, he's relying on his good children, his faithful children to intervene. Us. This is the only reason, but it is one of the reasons I say you've got to take sides when it comes to good versus evil. You've got to take sides when it comes to bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism and anti-Christianity. You've got to take sides when it comes to protecting our country from people who come here and will not assimilate, will not share in what is the greatest culture on the face of the earth, and instead attack it, deride it, and try to destroy it. You have to take sides. If you don't take a side affirmatively, you're taking a side by acquiescence. When you have people you thought you knew with podcasts who sound like lunatics, who start attacking people because of their faith or their race, they shouldn't have a lot of followers, at least not in the United States. Overseas, that's one thing. But here, in our country, no. People of real faith should speak out. You heard Pastor Hagee last hour. And there are other pastors who are speaking out. But you don't have to be a pastor to speak out. You just need to have a belief system. You have to know right from wrong. When people are preaching bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism, they know that their words can cause violence. They know it. They know their words can cause violence, especially when they're getting rich from it. And they're getting more extreme and more crazy in the things that they say. They know that the things they're saying can lead to violence, but they do it anyway. So I feel I have a responsibility with a platform like this and an audience like you and other platforms and audiences as well to confront this. And I think people of goodwill and people who are faithful agree. This isn't some game. This is life and death. This is for all the marbles. What kind of country you want to live in?
Mark Levin.
You're listening to the best of Mark Levin.
Obviously, I wasn't on the air last evening. My wife and I and other family members were invited to the White House for the Hanukkah party. I wish the whole family could have been there. They would have really loved all this. But it was packed, which kind of supports the president's point. In his building of a ballroom, he had to turn back literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who he wanted to attend. You know, folks, a lot of people say things on the internet, in podcasting, on radio, and so forth, that are simply false and dishonest. Or they try and create impressions. And we get this all the time, do we not? People aren't so much interested in conveying facts and truth and information. They're more interested in trying to manipulate. We get this all the time from the Marxist Islamist left and the neo-fascist right. We are constitutional conservatives. We don't deny that we press our principles, but we do it with knowledge and facts. Not to manipulate people, but to persuade people, to influence people through debate and argumentation. The other thing I notice is Saul Alinsky is alive and well in the minds and hearts and souls of the Marxist Islamists and the neo-fascist right, when they are constantly going after individuals to try and destroy them and smear them on made-up arguments. There's a lot to go over tonight, and I want to do it. We'll do the best we can. But I want you to hear some of what President Trump said. President Trump has never flinched in his support for the state of Israel. His father was a huge supporter of the Jewish community in New York. He worked with many fellow Jewish real estate titans and others. And so it's not like the Jewish community was, the reptile house at the zoo. It was part of sort of the assimilation of what takes place in New York. And Donald Trump did the same thing. And so when his daughter Ivanka married Jared Kushner, an Orthodox Jew, there are no objections. There's no shock, none of that sort of thing. The president is a very, very open-minded man. He definitely is, but he is also a man of principle. He has said some things to me in private about what he sees taking place that I will not share with you. And he says these things because he's quite shocked and disturbed by them. Again, he's never tried to camouflage who he is and what he believes. There are people who've tried to twist who he is and what he believes. People who've tried to hijack his belief systems and claim that they're responsible for him and his election and MAGA, when you and I both know they have nothing to do with what we believe and what we support. The president is very, very concerned about the anti-Semitism that's taking place in the United States and around the world. He said so last night. He's very supportive of the state of Israel, as he has demonstrated now in his second term. Even if you have some disagreements with him, and I have from time to time, there's simply no question where he stands on this issue. He is well aware of the rising tide of Islamism, and he's put policies in place to try and fight it and deal with it. And as anybody who actually meets him or deals with him, even in a crowded room, know, he's an enormously kind man. He's a great host. And so my wife and I were standing there, my mother-in-law and stepdaughter, and he calls out to me and my wife, Julie. And there's a lot of important things I want to get to today, but I want to give you a sense for what was taking place. And I'll give you an example of some of this because people have been asking me about it. Cut one, go.
We have a man, I have to take a little time. He did so well that they put him on Saturday too, Saturday night. You know who I'm talking about? Because there's only one has Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday is considered Death Valley, but it's not death because of ratings. Nobody gets good ratings. Although actually my daughter-in-law is doing well, and you always did well. The great one, Mark Levin. And much more importantly, his much more brilliant wife. Where are you? There you are. Would you come on up here, both of you? Get up here. Get up here.
That's Julie.
Look, every Saturday, every Sunday, I'm forced to watch television to listen to this guy talk about how freaking great I am. Because he does like Trump. There's no question about it.
Yes.
Come on up here, Mark. Get up here. Come on up. What a beautiful couple. Did you get lucky? If you weren't a genius, you wouldn't have a wife like this. Mark, say a couple of words. Come here, darling. And these people do like Israel.
Hold on. And he loves Israel too.
It's true.
2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. 6 years ago, I was up here. And I said, this is our first Jewish president. Now he's the first Jewish president to serve two not consecutive presidencies. We thank you for everything.
That's right. Bad things happened on the second one. Namely, the election was rigged. And we found out, and you see that happening. But
And you are the greatest president.
Thank you very much.
And God bless you. I miss you. I miss you.
Take care of that guy. Take care of that guy. No, he's so great. Thank you, Mark, for both being here. You both really are amazing.
So, of course, this is posted here and there, and the Carlsonites, the Fuentesites, in other words, the Jew hater anti-Semites, they're all over the place. They're done with Trump because Trump has demonstrated that he's Israel first, and we've had enough, and look at the Jew influence. Donald Trump is a patriotic American. I'm a patriotic American. My family's been here for 125 years, and they have fought the wars, World War I, World War II, and I really get sick and tired of this crap from these neo-Nazi, neo-fascist, Marxist pigs. And I will fight these people with my last breath. They're trying to destroy the Republican Party. They're trying to destroy MAGA. They're trying to destroy the conservative movement, and they're trying to destroy the Trump presidency. I had on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sunday the director of the Reagan Institute in Washington, who went through the different positions of MAGA when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to our military, when it comes to our alliances, when it comes to the state of Israel, when it came to bombing the nuclear sites, when it comes to Taiwan. MAGA is solid conservative. And I'm telling you why. Because MAGA is the Tea Party. MAGA is the Reaganites, without certain Reaganites who are more rhino than conservative. That's who we are. That's who we are. We're not neo-fascists. We're not neo-Nazis. We're not isolationists. We're not anti-American. We're not pro-Putin, pro-Qatar, pro-Iran. That's the enemy. The enemy. Carlson is the enemy. Bannon is the enemy. Owens is the enemy. No Pants Gates is the enemy. They may claim they love this country. They hate it. They may claim they love the American people. They despise you. The president's the real deal. The real deal. Here he is at the reception last night. Cut 2, go.
Let me take a moment to send the love and prayers to our entire nation, to the people of Australia, and especially all those affected by the horrific and anti-Semitic terrorist attack, and that's exactly what it is, anti-Semitic, that took place on a Hanukkah celebration in Sydney. What a terrible, terrible thing. We don't learn. We're joined in mourning all of those who were killed, and we're praying for the swift recovery of the wounded. Some are very horrifically wounded, as you probably know. All nations must stand together against the evil forces of radical Islamic terrorism, and we're doing that.
I will share this with you a few weeks or maybe a month or so ago. When I was talking to the president, he said, "Mark, you would not believe the level of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel believers that are out there." He is shocked by this. Cut 3, go.
As President of the United States, I will always support Jewish Americans, and I will always be a friend and a champion to the Jewish people. I have been. And I will say, if you go back 10, 12, 15 years ago at the most, the strongest lobby in Washington was the Jewish lobby. It was Israel. That's no longer true. You have to be very careful. You have a Congress in particular which is becoming anti-Semitic. You have AOC +3. You have those people, Ilhan Omar, she hates Jewish people. And you have to be very careful because there's been a big change.
Cut 4, go.
How about October 7th? And then you have people that deny it ever happened. How about the people that deny, like they deny the Holocaust, but you figure, well, that's just many years. Well, October 7th is not many years at all. And you have people that deny October. I saw tape that I wish I never saw it, actually. I wish I never saw it. I got to see tape that some of you got to see, but as president, I got to see things I wish I never saw. But there's no denying it. But then they'll say, oh, the tape was a rigged tape. It was a tape that never existed. They made it up. It's just propaganda. I don't know if they believe it. I don't think they believe it, but you have to be very, very careful. Bad things are happening, and we're not going to let that happen. While I'm president and the DOJ and Harmeet, we're not going to let it happen. But please be vigilant and careful, because you have some bad people that are now in Congress that were unthinkable to be in Congress 12, 13, 14 years ago, 15 years ago.
The president knows exactly what's going on. And by the way, he's a man of deep faith. He is a Christian believer. He absolutely is. A man of deep faith. And this is why he's troubled by this. But I wanted you to hear this. There's very few leaders in the world who speak like this. There's a handful of leaders in the United States who speak like this, just a handful. And I want you to understand that Donald Trump is a tremendously patriotic American, as you are in this audience, Mr. and Mrs. America. But when he sees injustice, he sees bigotry, he sees racism, he sees anti-Semitism, he addresses it. That's what we Americans do. We run to the aid of our fellow citizens, whomever they may be, and we reject the enemy within and the enemy outside that seek to come within. And we reject the haters, the bigots, the racists, the anti-Semites, the anti-Christians, who at least temporarily have microphones. Time will tell.
Mark Levin.
The Great One makes your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
Over in the New York Post, F grades handed to 14 colleges in anti-Semitism report card as Jewish students forced to hide their identities. In America, nobody should have to hide their identities. I don't care who you are or what you are. Whopping 39% of Jewish college students have had to hide their identities on campus. 62% said they've been directly blamed for Israel's military actions, according to a new report obtained by the New York Post. The civil rights group Stop Anti-Semitism. This is Kraft's group, the owner of the Patriots. They issued their 2025 report cards, grading how 90 colleges addressed the spreading hatred against Jews on campus. 14 schools flunking the exam, including 2 New York City universities. The report exposes a disturbing and undeniable reality. Anti-Semitism on American college campuses is systemic and tolerated, in many cases enabled by the very institutions tasked with protecting our American kids. Stop Anti-Semitism founder Laura Rez said in a statement. Did the Biden administration do anything at all about this? They did nothing. Absolutely nothing. They brought these people into our country. Those they didn't bring into our country, these professors were teaching them hate. Well, anti-Semitism is on the rise across the globe. Hamas terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th. Students at 90 colleges in America have reported feeling unsafe on their campuses, according to the report. About 58% of respondents said they have personally experienced anti-Semitism on campuses, only 12% claiming the reported incidents were properly addressed. Did you see these people on the subway in New York coming back from a Hanukkah party? Did you see these 2 black guys beating up on this one guy, Mr. Producer? It's unbelievable. It's sickening. They're choking the guy. He didn't do anything. They tried to avoid them. They went into a car. They were following into the subway car. Did you see Crown Heights? Did you see that video, Mr. Producer? There's obviously a Jewish guy based on his clothing, stabbed by a black guy. For what? For nothing. For nothing. Now, the way I just explained it, nobody talks about it this way. What's going on? What's going on? Mark, you can't say that. I can't tell you what I see with my own 2 eyes? With my own 2 eyes? Yes, I will continue to do this as long as I can. And I will continue to do this. This is America. You know, well, that's what the Israels are. Please give it a... This is on our subway system, on our streets, from New York to Miami to L.A. I just covered briefly New York, Miami, and L.A. I just talked about imams. I just talked about what took place on the subway, on the streets. Massive terrorist attack plotted and planned for New Year's Eve in 5 different locations in California. Seems to me this is all about America. Seems to me it's all about the battle between civilization and the barbarians, is it not? The answer is yes, it is. Vivek Ramaswamy, Politico, not a favorite of mine, calls on conservatives to reject the groypers, a.k.a. the gropers. In a New York Times op-ed, the former Republican presidential candidate is running for governor of Ohio. I think he'd be a very good governor. He said Fuentes and his supporters have no place in the conservative movement. You won't hear that from Tucker Carlson. You won't hear it. You won't hear it from bloated Bannon. You won't hear it from No Pants Gates. You won't hear it from Marjorie Trader Green. He urged conservatives to reject groyper transgressions, becoming the latest Republican to weigh in on the oncoming debate in the party over anti-Semitism. You know, there's really not debate in the Republican Party. The overwhelming majority of Republicans reject this crap. And the problem is the Democrat Party has already been consumed by it. It's been devoured by it. And now they're working on the Republican Party from the neo-fascist right. These are not constitutional conservatives. These are not people who believe in Americanism. If, like Mr. Fuentes, you believe that Hitler was really effing cool, he wrote in the op-ed, if you publicly call Usha Vance a Jeet, then you have no, and I had never heard of that word, then you have no place in the conservative movement, period. Ramaswamy wrote in the New York Times, op-ed published Wednesday, referring to a derogatory ethnic slur against South Asians. Ramaswamy shared that he has been the target of racial slurs. Join the pack there, brother. And attacks on social media despite older Republicans doubting the rising prevalence, white supremacy in right-leaning online circles. I don't think older Republicans are denying this at all. Do you, Mr. Producer? I think older Republicans are the ones calling it out. I think what we lack is certain prominent Republicans calling it out, certain prominent Republicans sitting on their mouths. These are politicians that never shut the hell up, but all of a sudden they have found their silence. Now, did you see this MIT professor, this nuclear expert? Jewish, pro-Israel, MIT professor. They murdered him in his own home. Who was they? The Israelis think the Iranians may have been behind it, and they're investigating it. It's unbelievable. MIT professor shot in his home, murdered in his home. So this is spreading. This is metastasizing. My affiliates understand this. My satellite partners understand this. Everybody connected with platforming this program understand it. We are the point of the spear. We are out front on this. It's not easy to be out front because people don't believe. Or people wonder, why aren't you talking about, the issue of the day or something like that? Because that's not what I do. That's not what I do. Vivek said it should be acceptable on the right to criticize USA to Israel or immigrant visas, but it's downright unacceptable to spew poison toward Jews, Indians, or other ethnic groups. You know, I'm going to say this, though. If you say you have a right to disagree with the existence of the state of Israel, I don't know. Do you have the right to say you disagree with the existence of Rome and the papacy? Well, what kind of idiocy is that? You can disagree with the existence of the one Jewish state. That's like saying you can disagree with the existence of America, but that doesn't mean you're anti-American. Of course you are. That's crazy.
Mark Levin.
We're giving you nothing but the best of Mark Levin.
The multicultural terrorist threat inside Europe. The exported war nobody wants to name by Pierre Rahab. Gatestone Institute, International Policy Council, is one of the best of all the institutes. It just is. It's fantastic. Really, really good work. Investigative and research writing. It's just terrific. And so let's go through some of this. It's important. Peaceful protesters certainly exist, he writes, but in many instances, the same marchers who cry from the river to the sea also provide cover, logistics, and recruitment spaces for operatives who work closely with Hamas or other terrorist organizations. This is a big deal. You know why, America? Because it's happening here, in our country. A report from the University of Indiana shows how a transnational network of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and campus groups spread anti-Semitic and pro-Hamas narratives, coordinated across borders and amplified by social media. I want you to remember that 9/11 was a direct attack on the heart of the United States. On the biggest buildings in our biggest city, on the Pentagon. And that other plane was headed for Congress, they think. So this is a big deal. Let's see, let's go on. The message is simple. Israel's colonial, Jews are settlers, and violence against them is resistance. And of course, that means we, the people in the United States. Europe rallies have repeatedly featured Hamas flags, praise for the October 7 attackers, and calls to repeat the massacre, all under the label of human rights. Law enforcement sees the problems more clearly than politicians. The same European Union reports that speak delicately of violent extremism in public also describe behind closed doors how online propaganda, diaspora, networks, and Middle Eastern conflicts interact to create hybrid terrorist ecosystems in Europe. Even so, at the political level, Europe still refuses to name the ideology, that is, the ideological enemy, an Islamist project that openly seeks the eradication of Israel, spills over to advocate eliminating the United States and the West. Quote, the one Jewish state is the first to suffer, notes Jerusalem Post reporter Liat Collins. But the nearly 50 million Muslim majority countries in the nominally Christian world are all in the line of fire. European governments rush to recognize a Palestinian state even as Hamas thanks them for rewarding its resistance, quote unquote. This same cognitive dissonance runs through the European Union institutions that condemn terrorism in the abstract while lavishly funding non-governmental organizations that glorify its perpetrators. Europe's retreat in denying intangible threats, staring them in the face, unfortunately, has extremely tangible results. Studies of Hamas funding stress that social and religious front organizations are integral to the movement's terrorist attacks. They launder money, recruit sympathizers, and create safe spaces where support for terrorism can flourish under a humanitarian cover. This is all Qatar. Not by itself, but this is all Qatar does. And so when you have sycophants like Carlson and people like him, and he's not alone. You got Wall Street guys, other businesses. You have athletes and sporting events. You've got entertainers from Hollywood. You have CNN. You've got others in the media. When Germany bans Samadun, or a small local front group, non-governmental organizations and academics denounce the act as repression of civil society. And here we hear people denounce it as attacking free speech, you know. When Belgium moves against a man praising the October 7 massacre, activist networks cry that solidarity is being criminalized. In this narrative, it's always the state, never the terrorist infrastructure, that is on trial. The war has been exported from Gaza to Europe, has three pillars: money, indoctrination, and operational cells. All three are embedded in structures that call themselves Palestinian Solidarity, or human rights organizations. As long as European governments accept this masquerade, the continent will remain both a financial base and potential battlefield for Hamas and its Qatari Turkish, and Iranian sponsors. What would a serious policy look like? No more American or European funding, period, for organizations that celebrate terrorist martyrs and teach children to hate Jews, hate Christians, or any other racial or religious group. When demonstrators chant globalize the intifada, they're not calling for peace. They're calling for the expansion of a global jihadist war, terrorism. Finally, Europeans must abandon the illusion that the Palestinian cause, quote unquote, is a harmless protest, disconnected from terrorism. Hamas itself, backed by Qatar, Turkey, and Iran, has explained over and over that Europe is part of their battlefield. The only question is whether European leaders will listen to their own police and intelligence services, as Israel's Mossad, or whether they will continue pretending that a war raging against them has no name and does not exist. When Israel's Mossad intelligence agency publicly revealed in November 2025 that it had helped European countries expose a Hamas terrorist infrastructure, quote, in the heart of Europe, unquote, including weapons caches and plans to hit Jewish and Israeli targets, it simply confirmed that intelligence professionals have warned since October 7, 2023. The war in the Gaza Strip is not local. It has been exported operationally to European soil, and I would add to American soil. As early as December 2023, German, Dutch, and Danish authorities had already arrested Hamas operatives accused of preparing attacks on Jewish institutions in several European countries. Prosecutors described long-standing members of Hamas directed to stockpile weapons in Berlin. Since then, intel and security reports have spoken of a, quote, realistic possibility, unquote, that the Hamas-Israel war will embolden networks across Western Europe to move from propaganda to mass casualty attacks. Folks, this is going to happen. It's going to happen here. It's going to happen in the United States. We have laxed immigration for way too long. We have the Democrat Party that gives cover to these operations. We have this Marxist Islamist alliance that really is at the heart now of the Democrat Party. And we also have our outliers, podcasters, influencers, who are in the back pocket of Qatar, if not financially, otherwise, trashing our own history, trashing the West, trashing the good guys in World War II. That would be us. Attacking Christians, attacking Jews in this country. Like Carlson and his ilk. Europol's 2025 terrorism situation and trend report openly acknowledged the Gaza conflict has reshaped the threat picture in the European Union. The forward warns that wars beyond Europe's border, explicitly including Gaza, fuel radicalization, propaganda, and operational planning within European states. In parallel, news outlets report that since 2023, European authorities have quietly disrupted several plots linked to Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Behind these plots lies an entrenched Hamas infrastructure in Europe that long predates 2023. A detailed study from George Washington University describes how Hamas built extensive fundraising and logistical networks in Western countries using charities, NGOs, often European funded, and business fronts, whose names and legal entities are constantly changed to stay ahead of authorities. And these same countries, the study's authors warned, are the natural incubator for future terrorist operations in the West. In 2024, the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy summarized new research by ELNet that identified 30 Hamas-linked groups and figures active in the UK, Germany, Italy, Belgium, and Netherlands. These groups include, quote, civil society, unquote, associations, aid organizations, and lobbying platforms that propagate Hamas narratives while maintaining close personal ties with known extremists. They operate with relative freedom despite Hamas being officially designated as a terrorist organization by both the EU and individual European countries. You know, ladies and gentlemen, one thing I'm proud of what we do here is we are focused like a laser. World War III is already underway. You know, it's not because of Israel. It's not because of Ukraine. It's not because of Trump with Venezuela. World War III, the Islamist war against the West. First battle with Israel. Battles breaking open in Europe. Battles will break open in the United States. I mark my words. I know what I'm talking about. They are here. They are plotting. You're in the right place at the right time in American history, and you have been. Germany, to its credit, has gone further to confront this problem than most. Berlin has not only banned Hamas and the international network Samadan, but has also started outlawing local solidarity groups whose activities glorify terrorism and promote anti-Semitic agitation. You know, I say over and over again, if you hate Israel, you hate America. If you hate America, you hate Israel. It's for one basic reason: shared values and belief systems. Israel is a Jewish state. America is essentially a Christian country, Judeo-Christian belief systems. Even in Germany, however, every ban on one structure appears followed by the birth of another. So this is highly organized and sophisticated. Hamas also invests heavily in indoctrination, particularly among students. A report from the University of Nevada shows how transnational network of NGOs and campus groups spread anti-Semitic pro-Hamas narratives, coordinated across borders, amplified by social media. Excuse me. The message is simple. Israel's colonial, Jews are settlers, and violence against them is resistance. They say the same thing about the United States. Same thing. And you can see it on college campuses in Europe. You see it on college campuses in the United States of America. You see Qatar. Why would Qatar be pouring tens of billions of dollars into our educational system? For this reason. That's why. And I'm waiting for Congress, the Republican Congress, to cut off all foreign money coming into our colleges and universities. But we can't even get a committee of Republicans to vote that the Muslim Brotherhood, the mothership of the terrorists, should be designated as a terrorist organization for all purposes and in every part of the planet. Ted Cruz and Republicans in the Senate now are trying to fix that and lead the charge, but we'll see how far that goes with their colleagues. Meanwhile, Europe's Jewish communities live under siege. Synagogues require fortress-style protection. Jewish schools resemble military bases. Israeli tourists are warned by their own government to avoid displaying any visible sign of Jewish or Israeli identity. The dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidents across Europe and America since October 7 can be directly linked to pro-Hamas agitation, even when officials pretend the hatred has nothing to do with imported Middle Eastern conflicts. The war that has been exported from Gaza to Europe has three pillars: money, indoctrination, and operational cells. All three are embedded in structures that call themselves Palestinian Solidarity. And that's where we are. Pierre Rehov, law degree from Paris, French reporter, documentary filmmaker, author of 6 novels. He has produced and directed 17 documentaries, many photographed at high risk in Middle Eastern war zones, focusing on terrorism, media bias, and the persecution of Christians. His latest documentary, Pogroms, highlights the context of Asian Jew hatred within Muslim civilization as the main force behind the October 7 massacre. I hope the world is listening. I hope people are listening. You, Mr. and Mrs. America. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm using these sources and conveying this information to you. It is here. It is a threat. It's going to hit us. And it's going to be horrific.